Hello, everybody. Welcome back to It's Called Football. We're bringing you a look ahead to match day 18 of the Premier League, which is set to kick off late on Thursday and progress right up until Sunday, which is Christmas Eve. So we've got 4 days of football, well, at least spread out through those 4 days. A little bit more concentrated on Saturday, as is kind of the usual day for football. But nonetheless, there are games over the next 4 days, and we thought let's bring that to your attention in case you're able to tune into games aside from just on regular days for games. So the main fixture on Thursday is actually a rivalry game, and it's maybe not one that most people are aware of, but if you ask any Crystal Palace fan who they most like to beat and who they most like to see lose, it's Brighton. And if you ask Brighton supporters that, they will likely give you exactly the same answer that they would love to beat Crystal Palace above most other teams in the league. So it is quite entertaining that our first game of this match day already starts with a bit of bite to it as this rivalry goes head to head. Now, it's a rivalry on paper based on performance this season in the league. You have to kind of say that Brighton has been the stronger side, despite them falling to defeat in the last set of games. Um, and Crystal Palace actually had the better result out of these two sides last week when they managed to come from 2-0 down to sneak a draw away to Manchester City, whereas Brighton fell to a 2-0 defeat at Arsenal. But overall, Brighton have undoubtedly had the stronger season in general. And of course, we can't base a prediction for a game or any sort of guess really about how the game will go just based on the previous week. The general trend does favor Brighton for this one. Friday then sees Aston Villa at home again, looking to make it 16 home wins in a row as they welcome bottom of the table Sheffield United to town. This one's particularly interesting as a game because on paper it absolutely favors Aston Villa. They have the momentum. They've just got a vital away win as well against Brentford. And before that, obviously, they had two home wins against Manchester City and Arsenal, both 1-0 wins, where they obviously Aston Villa didn't concede a goal in those ones. So they will be going in full of confidence, completely opposite to how Sheffield United will be going into this game. But there is extra incentive for Villa in this game because should they win, as they're expected to in this game, Aston Villa will propel themselves to the top of the league table uh, at least until the end of all games played this weekend. So there's a lot on the line and completely unexpected from Aston Villa, if we're honest, especially given how they kicked off the season with a 5-1 defeat at Newcastle's hands. So it will be definitely entertaining to watch just to see how much Aston Villa go for it and whether that uh, potential reward of going top of the league and being top of the league at Christmas, whether it factors into Villa's play at all. The bulk of the games, like we said, does take place on Saturday then, and we see West Ham host Manchester United. That should be an interesting game because West Ham United, sorry, um, at home they've been quite good, but just today they played a match in the League Cup where they fell to a 5-1 defeat to Liverpool, and West Ham really didn't look good at all in that match. Now, obviously, there was a bit of rotation to make sure players weren't overworked playing games so close together. But still, West Ham looked abject in this game, and they will need to be way better against Manchester United, who will actually be coming into this game full of confidence after managing to clinch a draw away to Liverpool in their previous league game. Fulham then take on Burnley. Again, if this game had been played in the first few weeks of the season, I would have found it much tougher to point out whether one side is obviously better than the other. But recent weeks suggest that Fulham absolutely had the edge here. Um, and in truth, they probably should kind of walk away, uh, easily from this fixture with a win. But weird things happen in football, especially when the fixture schedule is so congested. And then we have another mismatch on Saturday as Luton Town welcome Newcastle. Now, although Newcastle have been beaten hard by injuries, uh, they are coming off the back of a good 3-0 win against Fulham. Luton Town obviously are reeling perhaps still a little bit from the events of last weekend where their captain was rushed to hospital after suffering cardiac arrest on the pitch. The captain is still he's stable, he's in hospital, he's recovering, but there's no word yet on when or if he might be able to take to the pitch again. Their rescheduled fixture against Bournemouth from last weekend. The league hasn't yet set a date for when it's going to be, but we do know that it is going to be played right from the beginning at a later date in the season and not from the moment when play was stopped. But anyway, it means that Luton do have a difficult task, not just because of the quality of their opposition, but just mentally it depends on where the squad is at right now. Saturday sees three more games, including two of the really tasty fixtures that seem to be approaching from this match day. Nottingham Forest versus Bournemouth is another one of the games on Saturday. Nottingham Forest have just sacked their manager, Steve Cooper, who we mentioned on a couple of the previous videos recently. It seemed like their manager was under pressure, and it seemed like it was a matter of when rather than if he was going to face the sack. He has now been sacked and replaced with a new manager, and let's see whether he has any immediate sort of impact. Bournemouth obviously have been in good form, and they weren't able to finish last week's game, as we mentioned, against Luton. But in general, Bournemouth will be going into this game full of confidence because Forest have not had a good run of results lately. We then see Tottenham take on Everton. Again, a fixture which earlier in the season would have been a very easy prediction for a Tottenham win. Now, Tottenham have won their last couple of games, and they look to be getting a lot of their injured and suspended players back. But Everton, of course, are on their own fine run of form with 4 wins out of their last 4 games, all without conceding a single goal. So it'll be really, really interesting to see whether Everton can make it 5 from 5 because this is another tough opponent and it's away, which means they will have the crowd on their back the entire time here. And then the pièce de résistance of match day 18 across the board, Liverpool versus Arsenal. Uh, Second against first at the moment in the league, and the winner would top the league going into Christmas. But as we said earlier, Aston Villa would actually stay top of the league if Villa win and this game ends in a draw. Regardless of who's top of the league by Christmas, it doesn't really make a huge difference because obviously there's so much football still to play. But it would be a huge mental boost for either of Liverpool or Arsenal to win against the other in this game because it sends a message out not just to their title contenders but to the entire league as to the strength of whichever side can be victorious here. Sunday then just sees one game as Wolves take on Chelsea. Uh, Chelsea have played a midweek match that went to penalties, and Chelsea did come out on top in that game. And Wolves will be stinging after being destroyed really by West Ham last weekend. So they will be up for it. Wolves anyway at home are such a difficult side. So many top teams have fallen uh, at this ground, and Chelsea are not going to have it easy either. It should be a very interesting tactical game, that one. And another game that was supposed to happen this week was Manchester City hosting Brentford, which would have been actually quite an interesting game to watch because Brentford is the one team last season that actually managed to beat Manchester City at their home and at Brentford's own home. They're the only team in the league that took maximum points off of Manchester City last year, and It might actually be a blessing in disguise for Brentford not to be able to play this game yet because they are missing some players with injury and suspension and so on. And Manchester City is away at the Club World Cup as a result of them winning um, the top European trophy last season. So that's the reason for this game being suspended or postponed, sorry. And it's not yet confirmed when exactly it's been rescheduled for, but it will be an interesting game regardless of when it happens. So a quick look at the league table going into match day 18. Arsenal lead by a point against both Liverpool and Aston Villa, which is why if Villa win as they're expected to, they will jump up to 41 points. And if Arsenal and Liverpool uh, end their game as a stalemate, then both of them will be below Villa on points. That being said, obviously there's a lot of possible permutations that can happen from the games involving these three teams. If Arsenal wins, it's simple. They top the table as they are right now. If Liverpool wins, then they will top the table. And if Liverpool win and Aston Villa win, then Villa would have to win by more than 6 goals against Sheffield United in order to top the league table on goal difference. So there's a lot of different things that could happen, and normally you'd say, oh, winning by 6 is probably not something that happens very often in a game. But Sheffield United have lost by 5 goals on 2 occasions this season and lost by 8 to Newcastle as well. So it is very, very possible that at Aston Villa's own home, they could probably hit that sort of a margin of victory against Sheffield United. And obviously, their game happens before Liverpool versus Arsenal, so Villa could just set down a marker really if they want to be ruthless about it. Manchester City at the moment cannot leapfrog any of the top three sides, being just a bit too far. And obviously, they don't play this weekend, but City could drop to fifth if Tottenham win their match against Everton. Newcastle United, again, they're too far to overtake fifth place, but they could make sure that they kind of keep that lead on the teams below them should they manage to take a win at Luton. While obviously there's chasing teams in Manchester United, West Ham, and Brighton who are looking to pounce if Newcastle slip up. And Chelsea, in the top half, will be looking to stay there as they take on Wolves. And Chelsea can't actually move any higher right now in the table, but they will be looking to close that gap if they can. The bottom half of the table sees Fulham, who have the opportunity, if they can take it, uh, to leapfrog Chelsea in the table should Chelsea slip up against Wolves. And obviously, Brentford, Wolves, and Bournemouth are breathing down the necks of Fulham and Chelsea because a win for any of those three would put them at 22 points, currently level with Chelsea. Everton, of course, have their own sights in mind here. If Everton do happen to win their match against Tottenham, then they could rise to as high as 12th in the league table, which is phenomenal given their 10-point deduction and how much that set them back initially. Nottingham Forest do have a chance to go as high as 15th should they pick up a win against Bournemouth, whereas the bottom three at the moment can't actually escape being in the bottom three, but they could change positions there uh, depending on results that involve their games. So Everton are kind of the big side, and we think their match against Tottenham should be one that you try to tune into on Saturday if possible. Both teams are in great form. Everton actually are probably in better form, but this might be one of their tougher tests. Now, Everton have gotten the better of Newcastle and Chelsea in recent weeks, and so they will know that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of attack that they're going to be facing. But Everton themselves are no slouch, and they have shown in recent weeks that they know how to maintain a tight defensive line while being threatening on the attack as well themselves. So I think this should be a very good game, and with so much on the line for Everton, you can bet that they're going to try to win this game. And obviously, featured match number two is the big one at the top of the table as Liverpool take on Arsenal. Winner goes top of the league over Christmas. Now, obviously, with the fixtures coming thick and fast, being at the top at Christmas is nice, but it can all change so quickly again within the next few days when match day 19 comes around at the halfway point of the league season. So there's a lot riding on it, but I think if either side were to lose this game, they still wouldn't be that disheartened because the gap is so small at the top of the table that it could be turned around before the new year anyway. Still, this is a game that's been fiery. It used to be very one-sided in Liverpool's favor for most of the last 6 or 7 years, but last year it became a lot more of a contest and far more even between the two. So it will be a very, very good battle to try and witness. The big stories again, like we said, Liverpool, Arsenal last season. Arsenal beat Liverpool when Arsenal hosted the game, and it was a close game, 3-2. And then when Arsenal went away to Liverpool, they actually went 2-0 up, which most sides are almost never able to do against Liverpool at their own home. Um, they went 2-0 up, and then an incident in the game riled up the crowd, which immediately kind of fired up the entire Liverpool squad. And Liverpool were eventually able to pull it back to 2-2 and draw the game, which a lot of people kind of say was the first game um, that led to the run which lost Arsenal the league title last year. So Arsenal kind of have a personal score to try and settle, but they need to be smarter this time, and and they need to make sure that they don't let the crowd get emotional in the game because when that happens, it that's when Liverpool kind of go up another gear and another level. So the way that Arsenal need to kill this game is to play like they did against Brighton, suffocate Liverpool, don't give them options, and definitely don't get the emotions going. Just be clinical and be almost robotic about it. Just play their game. Liverpool, of course, have I think the most dangerous attack in the league. Um, the most difficult set of forwards to try and keep quiet. They're just so unpredictable and they're so talented, especially led by Mohamed Salah, who has had either a goal or an assist almost every single game this season. He's been beyond ridiculous yet again for yet another season. And Arsenal have probably their toughest test ahead of them here if they want to lay down a marker for their title credentials. Lost in the discussion of this big game, though, is Aston Villa's chance to make sure that they finish top of the league going into Christmas at least. Their fixture is definitely winnable for them, especially given how they've been playing lately. And there might be a little bit of a personal bit of emotion going into this game as well, because a couple of seasons ago, there was an issue, a fault with the goal line technology, which uh, prevented a certain goal from happening. And eventually, what happened is, had that goal been scored, Aston Villa would actually probably have been relegated from the Premier League and gone down to the next division. As it happened, Sheffield United went down. And given where Aston Villa and Sheffield United are now, you have to wonder what could have been, what might have been the butterfly effect if that technology had been working that day. So both teams, I'm sure, will remember this a little bit, um, but it's water under the bridge at this point as well. So they shouldn't let the emotion of that day play too much on what they need to do here. Aston Villa know that they can go top of the league with a win, and if they win by a handsome enough margin, they could be top of the league no matter what happens in the other game. Sorry, not no matter what happens, as long as Arsenal don't win their game. So there's a lot on the line here, and it will be a good game to watch. I just feel like it's going to be a bit one-sided in Aston Villa's favor. And Tottenham Everton is kind of the Richarlison derby. Richarlison, who plays for Tottenham, used to at one point play for Everton until he made the switch from the Blues to the Lily Whites. And I think it's fair to say that he was definitely more prolific as a goal scorer and as an attacking threat at Everton. He had a more successful spell there in terms of goal scoring. He hasn't quite hit those heights at Tottenham, and I'm sure he would love to have this be the game where he kind of sparks back into form and leads Tottenham on a good run. Uh, the track record at the moment isn't necessarily suggesting that that will happen, but it could be a very interesting game for him personally as his former club comes to visit his current one. So, our predictions for the games this match day 18. I think, despite the fact that Palace had the better result last week, Brighton are the more stable side. They have a clear plan in place, which most teams in the league aren't able to deal with. And I think they are going to come away with a 3-1 win here at Palace. Villa, I don't see them winning by a 6 goal margin or something like that, but I do see them winning comfortably enough without much fuss, and I think it's going to be 3-0. I unfortunately just cannot see Sheffield United breaching Villa at home when Arsenal and Man City couldn't even do it. West Ham and Manchester United is a little difficult to predict. I think West Ham United will be confident being at home, but Manchester United looked a lot better, and they will take so much positivity out of their draw against Liverpool. At the end of the day, I'm not really sure either side is consistent enough right now to pull away with a clear win, and I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw in this game. Fulham and Burnley, though, I think is definitely more in Fulham's favour. While Burnley might snatch a goal at some point in the game, I think Fulham will put this game beyond doubt fairly routinely, and I see a 3-1 win there. I also see Newcastle having a fairly routine win against the likes of Luton. I think Luton will be a bit shocked. And despite their best efforts, I think Tom Lockyer, their captain, is a big part of why their defense is stable, why they've been so resolute and not really allowing too many goals. And Newcastle, on the other hand, they have enough attacking threat that I think they will be able to take advantage of this weakness that Luton currently have in their team. Forest and Bournemouth, I think, is definitely more in Bournemouth's favor, and I'm picking them to edge this game 2-1. I think Forest will be a bit better under their new manager, and they will go for it more. They'll be a little more unpredictable compared to what we've seen from them this season. But at the end of the day, I think Bournemouth's tactics are now more in place, and that will see them over the line in this game. Spurs and Everton is a very difficult one to call. This really could go either way. At the end of the day, I think Spurs being at home and having most of their players available means that they're more likely to resemble how they looked at the start of the season, which was difficult to handle, to put it mildly. And I think they will just edge this one over Everton, whose 4-game winning streak I think is coming to an end in this game. Unfortunately, as a fan, I think Liverpool at home they're just a different kind of beast. Not even Man City have the same fear that they inspire at their own home. And unfortunately, I do think that Liverpool will ultimately come away, not necessarily down to just the quality, because I think two sides are fairly even in their quality. But I think there will be some moment that gets the crowd going, and that will be what tilts the game in Liverpool's favor. Not to mention the fact that the referees seem to be terrified of giving any sort of decision against Liverpool now after that horrendous mess up against Tottenham. So unfortunately, I do think Arsenal falls to defeat in this game. I desperately am hoping that the scoreline goes the other way to my prediction. I would love for Arsenal to get a win. It's been a long, long time since Arsenal won away to Liverpool, and this would be the perfect time to do it. They have a team that can do it. It's just can they weather the storm? And Wolves and Chelsea, I think, is going to be an even game. I don't see Wolves winning just because they've looked a little more inconsistent in recent weeks, and Chelsea have looked a bit better. Ultimately, I think they will cancel each other out, and I'm going for a 2-2 draw. And as we know, Man City and Brentford is postponed and won't be played this week. So that is where we're going to leave you for now. Matchday 18 does promise to have quite a lot of twists and turns, especially at the top of the table. And we hope that for those of you that are celebrating Christmas, you have uh, a great holiday, a great time with loved ones, and obviously enjoy the football if you're able to. But if you have family commitments, well, we need to sort out priorities then, don't we? Um, But yeah, take care, everybody. Enjoy the holiday. If you're not celebrating Christmas, we hope you just have um, a nice time relaxing, enjoy the football, and stay safe out there, stay warm, and remember, it's called football.